Island de Bermudas.
Going
The
to
Spaniards
see
came here in the 16th century,
Aquarium.
around 1503, literally on the move, looking for gold. Finding none, they moved on. And about 100 years later came the Brits. Although Bermuda is named after a Spaniard, it was the British who settled down here, claimed the place, and colonized it. Bermuda's status with the UK, we are an overseas territory of the UK. There's a Governor General who represents the King or the Crown. Her position is very ceremonial, if you will. Yes, I did say her. For the first time in all of Bermuda's history, we have a female governor. The title of our leader is known as the Premier. Just like your person is known as the President, our person is known as the Premier. He is the person that is in charge. The island itself is divided into 9 parishes, just like states or counties. Presently, we are in Sands Parish. Sands is the most western parish out of the 9. Your ship is berthed at the very western tip of the island, so obviously we are traveling east. The Royal Naval Dockyard, constructed in the 19th century, around 1834, along with many of our forts and lookout points. The Royal Naval Dockyard was also closed for a while until the Bermuda government decided to reopen it. And it has certainly been a plus for tourism. All you got to do is take one look at these buildings and know they weren't about to go anywhere. Built very firmly, very strongly, and just about every conceivable building that you see comes under the umbrella of private enterprise. Bermuda is this little speck, if you will, this little dot out in the Atlantic Ocean all by herself. The closest landmark, North Carolina. To be more precise, Cape Hatteras, 600 nautical miles away. Its population, 60,000. Very consistent, very constant, and a very insignificant number will leave on an annual basis. People do tend to stay. I'm still here. Now, when we get up around when we go over the very next speed bump, also referred to as the sleeping policeman from time to time, we will be officially out of the dockyard. We are approaching the last speed bump. And now we are officially out of the yard. Now these 2 huge silos that you see off to our left, that's where we store all the dry cement that is imported into the island. Now let me generalize things. Whatever Bermuda's needs and wants is, everything has to be imported. So that automatically sends the cost of living skyrocketing. And as we travel through the land, you're going to notice just how green and lustful looking Bermuda is. The greenery keeps just about the year round. One can come to Bermuda any given time of the year, even in the height of the summer, and you'll still see all of this greenery. The annual rainfall, 60 inches. We do not have a rainy season, no more than it can rain at any given time. And also being an island, there's always a certain amount of moisture in the air, helping to keep things green. Now Bermuda is volcanic. No record to show when the eruption took place, no more than it must have been millions of years ago. It is inactive, but every now and then, every blue moon, we'll have an earth-shattering movement, registering about 1 point something on the Richter scale. We sleep right along through it. The experts will get in touch with the news media some 3 weeks or a month later, informing us that we slept through an earthquake. How comforting, how comforting, how comforting. Now if you look to your immediate right, all this stone, all this rock that you see in its natural state, in its natural form, what you are basically looking at is the natural formation of the eruption from the volcano. which left us with our own natural building foundation. So folks, Bermuda is as solid as a rock. Now, when we get up around the next bend, coming up on our left, you're going to see this aqua color building, this green building, if you will. It is a church, and it is a non-denominational church. And it's coming into view as I speak. There it is. As we go by the church, continue to look to your left, and you'll see this old military cemetery. Given the size of the island, there's no way we could have continued to construct cemeteries in this manner because it would just simply eat up too much real estate. There was a time when we didn't have the modern equipment to cut into all the rocks. So all we used to do was dig a hole and construct a headstone. Somewhere along the way, we'll see the more modern day type cemetery, and I will elaborate on that as well. Now, if you look across the ocean, you'll notice the different shades through the formation of the sky, the sun ray, the depth of the water, the coral and the sandy bottom is where we pick up the different shades. The very tall trees that you see all around us and up ahead, they are known as the casuarina. The casuarina is an Australian pine tree. These are the trees that we brought in to replace the Bermuda cedar tree. Yes, when Bermuda was discovered, they found an island covered with cedar trees and wild pigs. One concluded that the wild pigs must have survived some sort of shipwreck because pigs can swim. But we only know too well that they all did not make it. However, if Bermuda is going to be hit directly by a hurricane, most of our destruction, most of our devastation is in the vein of the foliage, particularly the casuarina trees. Given the height of the trees, the powerful winds, and being so shallow, makes it that much easier for them to just simply topple right over. All buildings, including homes and houses, remain right intact because of Bermuda's building material, which is limestone and cinder blocks. And absolutely no loss of life. Bermuda cannot get any more blessed, any more fortunate than that, because it's inevitable when it comes to other places around the world, sadly to say, being hit directly by a hurricane, they will lose lives. Now, if you look out to the far right, the pink complex in the distance is one of our hotels, the Cambridge Beaches Hotel, a cottage colony type style of a hotel. Everyone having their own individual cottage, and you have a main house for the central lunching, dining, entertainment, and so forth. The main island, Bermuda, there are 6 fair-sized portions of property, joined by 5 bridges. That's what makes up the mainland. After that, there's some 200 plus islands in reference to the definition that a piece of rock or a piece of land, like this one to our immediate right, surrounded by water, is an island. Given the size of most, very few are inhabited. Now, recognizing that we're going over one of the 5 bridges, which is known as Watford Bridge, you are beginning to see some pastel colors. You will see the multiple colors as we travel through the land. We have a serious building code in Bermuda. Whatever one intends to build, they must submit everything to planning. Planning will decide what should and what shouldn't be. But when it comes to the painting, the coloring of one's home, it's just simply one's choice. And whatever color one chooses, it's readily accepted. You can paint your house the same color as your next door neighbor, and it'll be readily accepted. All colors blend in so beautifully. With all the greenery, and with Bermuda looking so lustful looking most of the time, they blend in very nicely. Now, when we get up around the next bend or two, you're going to see a cluster of buildings, not these, just up ahead, and the area is known as Somerset Village. This used to be the end of the line right here. During peak tourist season, hotels full, guest houses full, cruise ships, this little area used to be a buzz. But once Bermuda government reopened the Royal Naval Dockyard, so many of the merchants took their wares out to the dockyard, and needless to say, the buzzing is gone. There's a few entrepreneurs still operating, Now, just up ahead, coming up on our right, you're going to see a bay, a beach, if you will, and it's called Mangrove Bay, and it gets its name after the mangrove tree. Now, there is but one thing that U.S. citizens and Bermudians do have in common. Yes, there is. We either drive on the other side of the street or the opposite side of the street. Nobody drives on the wrong side. Now, there's a few areas in Bermuda regarded as the millionaire sections of the island. Apart from that aspect, the average working class people, the middle income bracket people, live throughout the entire island. And there's no exception where we are right now. Given the sequence of my commentary, I will get into some real estate talk, but I'm going to keep you all in suspense for as long as I can. As we travel through the land, our rooftops will get your attention. And again, given the sequence of my commentary, you're going to learn all about Bermuda's rooftops. Let me say this here very briefly in terms of real estate. The average building lot, about a third of an acre. Not a bad size. 6 figures, folks. Yes, 6 figures. Just for the building lot, all by itself. When visitors learn just how expensive Bermuda is, and it is, the question follows. How in the world do you all manage to live on an island that's so expensive, particularly when it comes to real estate? My immediate response, we do. And when I get into my real estate talk, I will give you some insights as to how the average working class people, the middle income bracket people, actually do it. Now, folks, I do not wear blinders. I have nothing to hide from you, but there's a place coming up on our right, and that will be regarded as a fix-me-upper. Now, just up ahead, there's a green retaining wall, and it borders the property of one of our Anglican churches, St. James Anglican Church. Once we go by the green retaining wall, all the homes, all the houses that you will see on either side of the street, lived in, owned by the average working class people, the middle income bracket people, people from all walks of life, from various backgrounds. Scheduled to go down the caves at around noonday. So right now you're seeing a bit of the island on our way to the caves. And as you look around, you are forever looking at your own permanent residence. Now, once we get by this incline here, the brow of the incline, a further 300 or 400 yards on our right, you're going to see this green building. Next to the green building, there will be a bus shelter. And next to the bus shelter, you're going to see a sign that's going to read backward home, just where the person is walking in the distance. Looks like a lady. Yeah. And there's the sign right there, and there's the green building. That is one of our senior citizens' rest homes. Nobody in this vehicle qualifies, but in any event, all 9 parishes will have a rest home or 2, aided by one's immediate family, government assistance. There are several charitable organizations in the island that's always contributing. It's that combination that looks after our senior citizens. And I must say, on the whole, folks, very well taken care of. And as you continue to look to the right, one of several inlets that are threaded throughout the entire island. What makes the inlet so spectacular looking? The craft, the boats, if you will. And of course, being an island, there's always going to be views, scenes, if you will. One of the benefits of living on an island. Now what a task it must have been many moons ago, having to cut out such roads with such limited equipment. Well, back in the day we used a lot of dynamite, so it took a lot of blasting, a lot of hard labor to cut out such roads. Roads that were left as dirt roads for a while, before asphalting came into being. When we get to the foot of the hill, the bottom of the hill, you can see another spectacular sight because of the boats, because of the craft. This is a 6-month project taking place right here. They are rebuilding the road. They started October the 1st. So I have the detour by picking up the old railway track. And I'll say something about the old railway track a little later.
Was that a planned improvement or did the road fail?
The road fell in, really.
Oh, okay.
No, or the rock or the stone that you see on either side. Remember I said Bermuda's volcanic. And just to think, all this rock, all this stone that you see, many, many moons ago, it was resting right at the bed of the ocean before the eruption took place. And it's amazing how Mother Nature, in your respective country, in my island, the way Mother Nature presents itself. From time to time, we can't even begin to fathom how Mother Nature presents itself, no more than to sit back, stand back, and just marvel at it. And you think all that rock that was resting at the bed of the ocean many moons ago is the very land that I live on today. Just incredible. Now we will be picking up the main road in the next 30 seconds or so. Once I pick up the main road, we are going to see this. As a matter of fact, we're going to see the smallest drawbridge in the world, 18 inches wide. Just enough for the mast of a sailboat to go through. We don't use it anymore because it would cause too many traffic delays. And I'm approaching the bridge right now. You'll see the center lift. There it is right there, 18 inches wide. One has to know, particularly on a windy day, there were some hairy moments going through that little gap. Yes, yes, so every now and then a mass was dismass. Now there are 3 main roads, the North Shore, the South Shore, and we are traveling on the middle road. All houses, all homes are numbered, and obviously that's all about legislation. But we are very familiar in naming our homes as well, which has nothing to do with legislation. No more than it's one's personal choice. And should you name your home, it automatically becomes a part of one's address. Very seldom do you see a duplicate name. Very seldom do you even see the family name. So these signposts up ahead on the left where I'm pointing, the first one will read Crosswinds, the middle one Holyoke, and the last one Onion Patch. Those are the 3 names of the homes that are further inland. Should they come up on the market for sale, well, it's up to the new owner, whether they want to maintain or keep the same name, or just simply change. Now, being a British island, soccer and cricket, well, some people say football, but nevertheless, soccer and cricket will always be one of those 2 major sports. So as I point off to the left, one of several soccer and cricket fields that are threaded throughout the entire island. Now, having said that, Bermudians are very sports-minded people. We certainly love American football, basketball, and baseball, giving me an opportunity to be a little personal. Seeing how I'm going to take our time to be a little personal. I don't want to hear no booing. I'm a Laker, a Dodger, and an Eagle fan. My 3 teams. Now, if you look to your right, or the property you see to the right, commercial farming, just like the playing fields scattered throughout the entire island. September, the beginning of the new planting season, and as time goes on, we just simply rotate the different crops. You name the crop, Bermuda can produce it. In the fruit line in abundance, bananas, grapefruit, and oranges. but the oranges, the grapefruits, are really very seasonal, if you will. Continue to look to the right. Easily the most popular public golf course in all of Bermuda, the Port Royal Golf Course. And I think come Thursday, we play a particular PGA tournament right here that we play every October, November. To the left, one of our preschools. Continue to look to the left, one of our primary schools. Now, the school term, September through June, every child in the island, irrespective of what type of school one attends, go to school in a uniform. No child has an opportunity to outdress the other one, bringing about a sense of equality, unity, and discipline as well. Recognizing that we only go up as far as high school. When it comes to college and university, you can find our students throughout the United States, Canada, Great Britain, and other such places. While in college and university, they will tap the job market to see if there's any truth in that. The grass just might be greener on the other side. Boy meets girl, you get married, then you decide whose country you're going to live in. On one hand, we'll lose some. On the other hand, we'll gain some. Most students do return home and able to find work as well. Now, there are two yellow buildings up ahead. I'm going to concentrate on the one that's going to be on our left. Not so much the building in and of itself, but using it as a landmark, if you will. And as I prepare to go by the yellow building on our left, you're going to see this narrow asphalt road where you see the car park. That's a part of the old railway. Yes, Bermuda had trains, but it was short-lived from 1935 to about 1950. The only other mode of transportation then, the ordinary paddle bikes and the horse and carriages. It was only in 1946 when Bermuda was first introduced to automobiles. Rather late for us, but in any event, as the automobiles increased, it just didn't pay government to operate the railway. So they dismantled it and they sold it to British Guiana. The old railway nowadays, broken up in a combination of cycle and footpaths. Of course, I guess in my personal opinion, had the government retained it, it certainly would have been a great tourist attraction today. But I think the whole 7 of us will readily agree. However right, wrong, or indifferent, our governments will make decisions. Now, United States had 2 bases here. One was at this end of the island, the Naval Annex, the Navy base. And at the other end of the island, the U.S. Air Force Base. The U.S. Air Force Base came to Bermuda just after World War II, creating Bermuda's first real injection to our economy. The United States had a 99-year lease on the bases, going up as far as the halfway mark, recognizing the Cold War being over, and that presence was not really needed in the island any longer. Since which all properties have been returned to the local government. But there is a document in place signed by Bermuda, the U.S. and the U.K. should the U.S. feel the need to be back in Bermuda. So if you look to your left, all the way across the ocean, that tract of land that you see right there, that was the Naval Annex, the Navy base. Now, as for Bermuda, we had no form of arsenal to defend ourselves, solely depending on the intelligence between the U.S. and the U.K. And needless to say that duty in Bermuda was a piece of cake. Now, given the layout of the island, I'm not so sure how much we're going to see it though. I'm about to leave the middle road, make a right turn onto South Road. I think if I was doing my other excursion, no, you're not gonna see it at all. And what I was going to get at, it was all about your floating hotel. I don't think you're going to be able to see it. No. Now we have just picked up South Road. Most of our beaches are on the South Shore. Earlier on, when you took on the local pilot, you actually came up the North Shore coastline. Given the size of Bermuda, which is 24 square miles long, the widest point 2 miles across, it runs east and west. But when you took on the local pilot a little earlier, you traveled the entire length of Bermuda by water on the north shore of the island. And now we are on the opposite shore, the south shore. And as you look across the ocean, this is that same Atlantic Ocean that you came across. And I love to see the ocean in that mood when you look at the water breaking over the treacherous reefs. Just spectacular. Now, the two Christmas-looking like type trees ahead of us, they are the Norfolk pine trees. Now, that's a very sturdy tree, like the cedar tree, deeply rooted, unlike the casuarina. Here's another hotel directly in front of us. The pink complex that's called the Reefs. You would need at least 6 months for an advance booking to get in. Very popular. All inclusive. And all hotels, every hotel in the island has its own private beach. Now, just up ahead, you're going to see this brick color building. There it is. One of our restaurants, Henry VIII restaurant. When it comes to Bermuda's menu, Bermuda's food, if you will, pretty much identical to yours. And like many places on planet Earth, yes, we have our traditional dishes. One does come to mind that we call Hop and John. Whilst we have it throughout the entire year, it is a must on New Year's Day. Hop and John is black-eyed pea and rice. You have it with either fish or chicken and a nice green salad. Recognize that we would have just gotten through Christmas? Well, hey, if there's any turkey hanging around, that can go in the pot too. Looking to your left up on the hill, the largest accommodating hotel on the island, Southampton Princess Hotel. It's a 600-room hotel. Sadly to say, it has been closed ever since the beginning of the pandemic. They have a shopping list of reasons as to why they're still closed, but we're being very prayerful, very hopeful. By the year 25, no more than 26, we'll see its doors reopen. The only thing operating to our left is their golf course, one of those executive type golf course, par 3 golf course, my type of golf course. Now, very shortly, I'm going to give you a bird's eye view of the most popular public beach in all of Bermuda. The water's a little cool right now. Just a handful of us will act like polar bears in Bermuda. I'm one of them, swimming the year round. This is the Horseshoe Bay Beach right here.
This, that they call Horseshoe?
That's Horseshoe Bay Beach, right there.
So there's a pink sand?
Now, I know you've heard all about Bermuda's pink sand beaches before leaving home. Let me set the record straight. The sand in and of itself is not pink. The very fine pieces of coral that's entwined in the beach sand is what's pink. Some beaches look a little more distinct than others. Now, as you travel through the land, as we are doing, you are forever looking at Huron permanent residents. Most of the homes that you see along the way are lived in, owned by the average working class people, the middle income bracket people. Now, whilst Bermuda does have its share of open spaces, which is important to our respective countries, we are never going to be traveling any sort of distance where it's going to be just open field, open land, if you will. Now, behind all of this foliage to our left lies our reserve army. Our reserve army will coincide with your National Guard, same thing, mandatory. The recruiting ages concerning the men 18 through 25, women basically volunteer. It is mandatory, and you do a term of 3 years. You maintain and keep your regular job. So just take a little brief glance to your left. These quarters, all these buildings that you see to the left, that's our reserve army quarters. Has anybody ever driven on this side of the street before?
This is the first time, yes, sir.
Whenever I come to the USA,
Correct.
I leave the driving up to everybody else. Looking straight ahead, looking straight out, all the homes that you see, they too are lived in, owned by the average working class people, the middle income bracket people. Having said that, I've been encouraged to get into some real estate talk now, but I have to forewarn you that this vehicle that you're driving in, very, very, very dear to me in terms of my occupation. So when I release the price tag concerning the real estate and concerning the average working class people, the middle income bracket people, I beg you, don't go through the roof. Now, given the present real estate climate today, and concerning the average working class people, the middle income bracket people, the average home, $1.5 million. You cannot purchase anything under a $500,000 in Bermuda. 6, 7, 8, 900,000. Nothing under a $500,000. When the average working class people, the middle income bracket people who have a desire of a family home, if you will, to build the family home, we are also allowed to put on an additional apartment or 2, and that's apart from the family home itself, maybe 3 or 4. For the most part, both parties will be working, meaning husband and wife. I have been on planet Earth long enough to see the USA flourish, economically speaking, over the years, recognizing that we are your neighbors. Bermuda will also flourish, economically speaking, to the extent that over the years, the average working class people, the middle income bracket people, have been able to attain the second and third job. Let me retrace, let me repeat, because these are some of the insights as to how the average working class people, the middle income bracket people, actually do it. The second and third job, husband and wife working, and we are allowed to put on an apartment or 2, maybe 3 or 4. The lowest annual income per capita, anywhere between 25 through 40,000. Obviously, when it comes to the different job capacities, the way it scales will escalate. For example, Bermuda does have its share of accountants, policemen, nurses, doctors, lawyers, principals of schools, teachers under the principals, and the list goes on. It's a familiar list to you concerning your workforce, if you will. Also, allow me to share with you, economically speaking, globally speaking, per capita, Bermuda lies between third and fifth in the universe. So there's a high standard of living. If we really had the time, I could take you through every cranny, every nook of the island. You will not see any poverty areas. You will not see any slum areas. Are there people in Bermuda trying to make ends meet? That is a profound yes. You just will not see such conditions. The Bermuda government played their part, keeping the island tidy, clean, and otherwise, and then the residents follow suit. And in between all of that, there's a great deal of pride in the island. And it pretty much shows as we travel through the land. Now, coming up on our left, we should see a pumpkin patch. And I think the pumpkins are kind of visible right now as well. Looks like we have some carrots to our left. And bear in mind, the commercial farming areas are scattered throughout the entire island, no one specific area. Now, as we travel through the land, you will not see any form of high-rise apartments that's going to be rented out in terms of apartments that's going to house 20, 30, 40, 50 families. No, nothing of that magnitude. But we do have apartments. 2 apartment complex, 4, 6, 8, maybe 10. Monthly rents varying $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, as much as $3,000 a month. And as we travel through the land, you won't see any form of advertising. You won't see no billboards. Government put that to rest many moons ago, saying that it would take away from the infrastructure of the island. I agree. So advertising in that regard, very, very, very low key. Straight ahead, the condominiums that you see, they too are lived in, owned by the average working class people, the middle income bracket people. One of several locations going between 300,000 and 400,000 a unit. Now, government would like to think that they are low cost. Well, government hasn't had a conversation with me yet. Because depending on one's situation or position in life, 300,000 to 400,000 is not necessarily that low in any event. I might just say something a little later, but I'll be very, very brief. As expensive as Bermuda is, and it is, one can make it if they so desire. I'll pick up that bit of commentary and extend it a little later on. Now we are approaching a junction where the very first traffic light in Bermuda was installed long before the city of Hamilton, where most of our traffic lights are. This junction right here is in the shape of a fork. Traffic flowing 3 different ways. Before the traffic light, everybody thought it was their turn. I don't have to tell you what happens so often, but the traffic light certainly solved it all. Looking to your left, you can see how rich the farming soil is, very rich, and that's a result of the eruption from the volcano. All natural, very fertile. Same thing applies to our beaches, everything is natural, all stemming from the eruption of the volcano. So no soil or sand for the beaches has to be brought in. as green as it's ever gonna look right now. Very lustful looking. Now we are approaching a roundabout. Some people say traffic circle, but in any event, if I was to keep to my left, it would just simply take us right into the city where this excursion actually ends. But that's for another time. Coming up on our right, you're going to see the only Lutheran church in the entire island. This is the Peace Lutheran Church. Coming up on our left, you're going to see a part of the botanical gardens. What we are able to see from the roadside is just a portion of the botanical gardens. It stretches far beyond what we are able to see from the roadside. But in any event, a nice piece of real estate. To the right of us, this is all private property. All the homes are right on the water's edge, sitting right on the ocean. So you know we're talking about 7 figures. There's only 1 car per family, per household in Bermuda. No restrictions when it comes to the motorized cycles. We can have as many as we like in any given family, any given household, but 1 car. Given the size of the island and its population, it makes a whole lot of sense. If everybody was able to just literally own a car, Bermuda would become one big parking lot. You really wouldn't be able to move, at least not that freely. Also, we cannot have multiple cars under 1 assessment number. The assessment number that I'm referring to is the assessment number of the dwelling in which one lives in. The vehicle that goes with the dwelling will have the exact same assessment number. All additional apartments will have their very own assessment number. The vehicles attached to the apartments will have the exact same assessment number. Bermuda goes through a very, very mild winter. For the most part, the temperature will fluctuate between 60, 65, stays under 70, sometimes right on the very fringe of 70. Sweater, light jacket, don't need no central heating, at least the homes don't. And all we would use from time to time is the ordinary electrical heater or the fireplace, just to take the chill off. We feel cold when the atmosphere is damp. And as you know, any form of dampness, you can put on all the clothes you want, and it still gets right to the bone. More commercial farming to the left. The other extreme, the height of the summer, Bermuda remains in the 80s, never ever in the 90s. But we all know the real killer that time of the year. They still call it the humidity. Thank God that we are an island. We will pick up our share of breezes. Very shortly, we're going to see the old Esso sign. For many, many, many years, it was Esso and Shell. But just recently, Rubis is a European petroleum company, and they just replaced the Shell people. So it's Rubis and Esso. But in any event, we are paying all of $9 for a gallon of petrol. There's the Esso sign. It's an imperial gallon, which is about 1/5 more than the US gallon, but still expensive. And where we are located right now, this is my original neighborhood. This is where I was brought up and stayed for the better part of my life. But in the last 5 or 6 years, I'm just about 10, 12 minutes outside the dockyard where your ship is berthed. Very conducive for my occupation. But this is my old neighborhood all along here. No, we've already passed a few churches and we'll pass some more. With a population of some 60,000 people, there are some 100 plus churches in Bermuda. Per capita, that is a lot of churches. There are 5 predominant denominations: the Anglican, the Methodist, the Catholic, the Adventist, and the AME. Those 5 will literally have a church in each parish. The Baptists are here, the Pentecostals are here, and the list goes on. Bermuda always been regarded as a Christian island. Now, folks, I am far from being perfect, but I am a Christian. Up and the AC is on. I don't need to get too close to that guy. Now, coming up on our left is one of our Anglican churches, St. Mark Anglican Church. Why we do not paint the steeples of our churches, I don't know. I've yet to ask anyone. I know when it comes to the masonry, it's pretty tedious. Now, as I round the bend, you'll be looking to your right, one of the modern day type cemeteries. Observe, because I will have something to say.
This is cemetery.
Now, when visitors see such cemeteries like the one that we just passed, one can easily conclude that we bury above ground. We do not. Those are family crypts, family graves, if you will. We go down to a depth of about some 10, 12, 14 feet. So we stack them one on top of the other. What you just witnessed there was the finishing construction of the grave itself. It's just like a monument stone that we can reopen it at any given time. Simply put, it's the very capping of the grave. That's the only purpose that piece of construction serves. Unlike New Orleans, they have to bury above ground because of the water table. We do not have that problem here. When we are drilling for water, it's going to be anywhere between 60 to 100 feet before we even reach water. So when it comes to constructing a cemetery, no problem. And I guess it's been close to 6 years now since Bermuda has had its first and only crematory. One of our funeral parlor people decided to ask government if we can have a crematory. Government honored the request. So nowadays we see a number of people being cremated. Now, I gave you a bird's eye view of the most popular public beach in Bermuda, the Horseshoe Bay Beach. Now you're going to see the best beach in all of Bermuda. And it's my beach. What else would I say? And as we continue along the South Shore, look how spectacular the ocean looks. The beach that you're going to see shortly is the John Smith's Public Beach. It was only back there where I showed you my original neighborhood, and it was just about a 5-7 minute drive for me. And I do swim the year round, even despite living out by the Royal Naval Dockyard. This is my beach right here, folks.
Wow.
What is the name of this beach?
John Smith's Beach.
Oh, very.
And if you look in the distance where you see the water breaking over the treacherous reefs, when I was much younger, the guys in the neighborhood, including myself, played King of the Rock. Well, I'm a little older and a little wiser now. So I just swim the length of the beach an X number of times. Those other days are over, long gone.